Let's call this meeting to order. And let's have roll call.
Agnes Fornarski,
Present.
Dana Syvertson,
Here.
Ed Madden,
Present.
John Kamish,
Here.
Peter Hahn,
Here.
Seth Marcus.
Here.
I'm Jill Moskel. All are present. We have a quorum.
Okay. Approval of minutes of regular meeting of October 11th.
I motion that we approve the minutes as so handily crafted by Jill. Another excellent job.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved. Moving on to old business, update on workday schedules. So our seed collection workdays are over. We had very successful Wednesday seed collections. A couple got rained out. Our last Sunday workday was rained out, unfortunately. Our next workday is our volunteer appreciation workday on the 18th of November, on Sunday. And then following that, we're back to bonfires and cutting resprouts and burning.
One of the things we'd like to do is the last workday that got rained out on Sunday. Excuse me. We'd like to try to reschedule that as the first one if the ground is still not frozen, so we can get those posts in for the interactive signs.
The other option is that Jeremy's still around, so we could try to have him do it, although it's kind of a big job to get it. It'd be better with volunteers, I think.
Yeah,
Do we have a post hole drill or digger?
we have postal diggers.
Manual or?
Yeah, manual.
Right. So we can have him restart or try to do some of those.
Mm-hmm.
How
Would
many,
you
how
consider
many
a
holes
standard?
do we need to dig?
610.
So you can rent a digger at Home Depot for pretty cheap, and then you zip those out.
Yeah, that's probably a great idea.
Yeah.
Makes
About,
life a lot easier.
what about placement of those signs?
Yeah, we have to go through and do that.
Does anybody want to participate in that?
Sure.
Okay.
When do you want to do that?
You wanna
He's
do it
gone
next
all weekend.
Saturday?
I'm going.
He's
He's gone
gone
all
on the,
weekend.
what about, next week?
What's your schedule like next week?
Yeah, I can make something happen. Wednesday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Maybe afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
We have our
The
presentation.
garden club on the 14th.
Yes, that's next Wednesday.
Aren't you talking about?
Yeah,
that?
we're talking about next Wednesday.
Yes, but
Yeah,
that's
so that's
at
what if we
1.
do it Wednesday morning, we're
Oh.
okay.
Okay, good.
Got it.
Any questions about the workday schedules? Any comments, additions? No, okay. Report on Commissioners Monitoring Project site results.
I think because most of the sites are down at this point, we should probably just eliminate this as an agenda item going forward until
Springtime.
springtime. I know Peter has a report that he wants to make because there's a lot going on over there at Morava. I did have a conversation with Dino. Agnes and I were there looking at the site because we went to see what they were calling a berm.
It's a pile of dirt.
It's an actual dump site of dirt, concrete, roots, all kinds of stuff. That is a byproduct of the new cement area they're doing at the patio, and they were just dumping it there. I called Dino and asked him to meet me out there, and basically he said it's dumped dirt, and as we need dirt, we'll take it away, and that's that, and it's going to be like that, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Nice and flexible.
So with that, Peter,
Yeah, it's kind of like an eyesore, but I understand that every facility has to have a dump area or dump site. It's just unfortunate that it's right in the middle of the nature preserve area. I don't know what could be done, really. I just leave it at that. I don't think we can do much right now.
well, one of my only recommendation was to because we planted all those hazelnuts there, and they're just
Half of them survived. though.
half of them survived, and they're very slow in growing. And I think maybe even if we just do something like elderberry or pokeweed there next year, we can shield that off from the rest of the park. And I think the sooner we do that, the better.
It's a thought.
Have we, or has anyone approached the board about this? Because obviously, it's gone nowhere with staff. And the reason why I ask that is, they may feel differently. It's very possible they don't know
It's been talked about.
to the board,
I don't
and
know
it's
if
okay
everybody-
with them?
I believe that there's been internal conversations left and right about
All right,
this, and
but-
they're not willing to do it.
But we don't know that, right?
No, we don't.
So,
for
so I'm
sure.
wondering if we could make a presentation at their next meeting and ask them to reconsider this because of the effect that it's taking, and ultimately, if that, like you say, is what we have to deal with, then we'll have to do that, but I'm not sure we've left every stone unturned yet.
We should have a lot of photos with that presentation.
Yeah.
Visually,
And I
what-
can't, and I agree with Peter, I mean, everybody has to have a dump site. But does it really have to be there? And ultimately, that answer may be yes, but what if it's not? What if the board, finds out, well, oh my gosh, we didn't realize? And just an appeal made to them to see if something else, if there is an alternative.
Okay,
I have a feeling it has to come from them, and if they don't want to do anything, well, then that's our answer, but
all
it
right.
just seems like, it just so counter to common sense.
Yeah,
So, and again, again, sometimes there's reasons for things, but I don't know that we've really,
Yeah. I mean, we've been back and forth on this, and we've approached both of the, Christina's the executive director, he's a superintendent, they're sort of like high up on the,
right, but
you
they
know, and
also
so-
answer to a board. That park district is driven by the board. So
just,
Christine answers to the board.
right.
that's true.
And what upsets me about Dino's thing is like, oh, it's just, sorry, guys, too bad, so sad. Well,
All right, I'll ask Christina, we're supposed to see her sometime next week. I will ask her, I'll send her an email tonight and ask her if there's any possibility of getting a board, an agenda item on their next board meeting.
I'd like to also make a
I
comment.
don't know if we, excuse me, I don't know if we just need to go there under resident comments or something. I don't know that we go to the person who we're trying to get around to ask for permission to do something,
Well, that's the protocol, you have to,
to the,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to,
well, okay, then maybe it would be wise to at least ask, and then if we can't,
Then you do some guerrilla tactic.
then we go as residents' comments.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'll make the ask, I'll update everybody.
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's
No,
okay.
no, I fully agree with what Ed said. I think very likely they would give us a opportunity to make a presentation. I think if we do get that opportunity, we ought to have a really beautifully polished presentation, including photographs, including, if possible, an alternative site. I don't know if there is an alternative site, but I think we ought to do our homework and investigate if there's an alternative site. So I think photographs, alternative site. I think also, if it turns out that that has to be the site, I think there's another sort of stand to take, which is if it is going to be the site, there should be limitations on where there should be a demarcation of boundaries, so that, like the other day when we were there, they were dumping materials, and the materials they were dumping, they backed up their truck to dump it out, and they backed it up right to the edge of the cliff above the stream, so that it was very clear that it would take the slightest bit of rain and wind, and what they were dumping would fall into the stream. So I think, our dream would be to have them not dump it there at all. If they're going to dump it there, I think we should get them to agree to a very clear zone of where they can dump and where they can't dump. So I agree we should make a presentation, but I really think, if we're going to get one shot at this, we ought to make it great.
To your point about having an alternative site, their argument has always been from day one that it's centrally located to all their projects, and that's why they do it there.
Well, Prospect Heights isn't that big.
Yeah, but when you're hauling 50 yards of something somewhere,
There's also a big park district.
They also
property
agreed
across
to
the
make it
street.
a nature preserve,
yeah.
so, not
But they
not a
they
dumping
agreed to
preserve.
do it as
Plus-
long as it was around the dump site, though.
Well, but hold on, so this is right next to a creek, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that this isn't in some designated floodplain. And that it's probably, there's a good chance that it's not even really allowable to be dumping material like that in a floodplain, or that close to.
It's not,
to-
that part isn't in the floodplain. It's like 20 feet up above the creek.
Well,
But, I mean, you shouldn't, obviously. I mean, that's, it's
the flood map.
definitely
may
not,
dictate a little bit
it's
different.
definitely not recommended to put any sort of debris or material or logs next to our waterway because of the
Right.
possibility
And I
of
can't do it in my
it.
back, I'm not supposed to do it in my backyard.
Right.
And then there's the other issue of what can they dump? Where can they dump? What can they dump? It's one thing to dump branches and leaves, but they're also dumping rubble. And so again, there's how much we can retrench with each option, but another option is to say, well, okay, if they have to dump and it has to be there, can at least be limited to, natural
Organic
materials.
material, oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And also I just don't want it to turn into like an aggressive stance either, because we have a really good relationship with the park district, and, they funded interns, and moving forward, they're gonna, with funding, and,
I don't think it has to be aggressive. We can just, in fact, it's part of our mission it would be contrary to our mission not to say something. They've designated this a park. Our mission is to preserve the parkland of Prospect Heights. To not say something, I
Yep.
think, is contrary.
I know, it's
to
just,
our
we've
mission.
said it, like,
But we have to say, we
said
can
it.
say it politely, obviously.
we've said it.
But I think, we've,
Well, I think what's different here, Agnes, is that, that the appeal here is to ask for an agenda item at a board meeting.
Right.
And that's different. So I thought we start there, and if they say, okay, then we make the presentation and see what happens.
Okay.
does anyone know of possible other optional sites?
Well, the closest one that would fit into their central theme is the golf course, but they've ruled that out completely. So,
They already dump at Heron Pond, there's wood, debris, chips, trucks go in and out of there all the time.
And that's not in a floodplain either, right?
no, it
That,
isn't.
it is,
I
that
know,
one is
I'm
in the
being
floodplain. Oh, you're being sarcastic.
That one is totally the floodplain.
And there's a lot of room back there, and very few people go there.
Yeah.
I know there's an area, in front of that area that we seeded.
Yeah.
uh,
They've looked at that area. They did, and so they were even thinking of having some sort of a barrier or fence, and the neighbors all around said, absolutely not. They just completely,
Yeah, I think that one neighbor too is kind of concerned about how high that area is going to be. I think he asked us one time, how much more is this going to be elevated with debris? Because he keeps on
Peter, sit closer to the mic.
getting, yeah, that area keeps on getting higher and higher, and I think that's part of the problem with the erosion problem into that creek with all the debris and material being piled up there so high. It's just, the slope is so great now, so I know that one neighbor was concerned about that.
There are areas, I'm just thinking if there's somewhat more industrial areas in Prospect Heights, which would be less concerning to residential community and residents, that might be more.
on Park District property.
Well, I don't know.
Well, what do regular
I mean-
companies do? I mean, come on, not everyone has dump sites that they just put it at. I mean, I understand like a golf course will have a section off area, and cemeteries have a section off area, but
So that's their area.
there's debris that's created in other areas, and they have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, I'm not suggesting that we take an adversarial role. I would like to see this be as diplomatic as possible, but I'm wondering if, essentially, the answer we've gotten from staff has been, we can't do it. And like, well, but is it possible the board could find a resource to have it dumped somewhere else? Or to pay to have it dumped somewhere?
And one thing I mentioned when we discussed this in the past is that most residents have yard waste pickup at their home, could the Park District contract for yard waste pickup?
Yeah. I just want to mention, though, when this whole project started in the very beginning, when we asked for permission to do this project, it was with that caveat, with that, the fact that, caveat that that was what's going to happen, is that they need that area. And so they allowed us to convert, you know, the remaining 2 acres into a really beautiful natural area. I just don't want it to turn into a, you know,
Well, then that changes things. I mean, if that was the condition, it is kind of
it's like asking.
awkward to now be coming back, and I wasn't aware of that.
Well, but it's escalated to proportions that are just, and they're just crazy at this point. I mean, in the beginning, it was just all organic debris, and, you know, we'd have a work day and it would be gone.
Yeah, we just burn it up.
You know, we were able to keep pace with it, but then it started being skid loads of, you know, of gravel, and then dirt, and then roots, and then concrete, and a couple of road guys would dump in there, and, you know, just,
Well, rubble's gonna be there a long time then.
Well,
Because
it's
if it's
also-
getting dumped there, it will never leave there unless something is done.
It started off as kind of just a wasteland that was, you know, growing out of control, weedy, whatever, and now it's not. It's a nature preserve, the library uses it, they have signs, so it is a different animal than it was when we first started it. Maybe that'll be taken into consideration with the dumping question. I think it's worth
Yeah.
an agenda item and a discussion, and if we get shot down again, we get shot down again.
And maybe not to approach it like going around them, but saying, you know, is there a way we could go to the board to ask for a,
no, I'll ask
Resources
directly
to-
if we can get an agenda item on their next board meeting.
Okay.
I'll tell them what it's all about, so.
but I mean, couching it in the thing of like, we'd like to see if there's other avenues of resources for them to be able to do what they need to do, instead of us just like getting in a, you know, fighting match with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I just want to say that if they do put us on the agenda and it's, you know, X number of days from now, I just really want to be prepared with a good, proposal, a good presentation.
Okay, is that something
Well,
you
if it's
wanna
in a
work on?
couple days, maybe we should ask for the following one to have some time to do it, but
When is the next board meeting?
No idea, Jill might have her schedule. Do you know when the next Park District Board meeting is?
Isn't it the second or third Tuesday of the month?
Not
Because
sure.
you went on the 16th last month, October 16th.
Yeah, it's not enough time.
No, maybe on the December,
I don't know if they have December meetings.
well, then January.
then
I mean,
January, and that
this
would give us
isn't,
enough time to prepare.
you know,
Does anybody specifically want to work on preparing the presentation?
Sort of automatically involves me.
And Peter, you
Yeah.
already took some pictures.
Yes, I have quite a collection.
So-
I'm willing to
Sorry.
help too.
Yeah, I can send it.
Okay.
Well, can Seth, Peter, and Ed do it and relieve Dana of the
Yes,
burden?
yes.
Well, hold on. I don't want to take one of the most knowledgeable persons about this whole thing out of the equation either, though, because I'm willing to
just-
help it, but I'm probably the most ignorant of
I'm
our
just saying, as far as
members.
putting in, if you're making a slide presentation,
Oh, yeah,
It's a lot of work.
you know, it's a lot of work, and Dana's, you know, just always overloaded,
right.
so,
I-
all right.
All right, I'll send the email, or well, actually, I'll just call her tomorrow morning
mhm.
and have the conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on. Do we want to say anything else about the project sites?
Oh, Peter, you had mentioned that the new plantings that were put in were pretty much demolished?
Yes, yeah, under the canopy area,
Mhm.
used by the baseball diamond. That's all concrete now,
Hmm.
and all the plantings, probably, I'm guessing 90% are lost.
Well, I mean, I think that it lost, like, at the top, like they were covered, or they were dug up, or?
Trampled, concrete, 2x4 stakes, the forming process of the concrete slab that they put. They did all the forming right where the plants
Yeah.
were.
I mean, we're at a time too in fall where the plants are sort of, so senescing,
There-
You
way
should
down
go
for the
take a look
season.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I can go take a look. I saw the
Yeah.
pictures, and I
Yeah.
didn't think it was, I mean, I thought it was bad, but it wasn't too bad. And there's a lot of plants there, and a lot of them still are in their, their roots, and they're still growing.
Yeah.
I was also thinking, considering that there may be some more construction, although they said that there wasn't going to be any more. I've always thought that we're going to just overseed that area too, to make sure that it comes in nicely.
Yeah, I think what also is gonna have to be done, I don't know how the runoff from that canopy, where it's gonna land, but it seems like at least a 3 or 4 inch curb there right now, where you're gonna have to add soil, otherwise it's just a drop off for the people using that area. They're just gonna fall into that area, so it has to be brought up to grade and replanted. I don't think it can be left like that at all. I don't know what they're
I
gonna
don't
do.
know which area you're referring to.
Well, there's a curb there where you planted.
Yeah,
There's an edge there of 4 inches now, where it just goes down to where the plantings are. So that has to be filled in with soil. I don't know if they're just gonna leave it like that, or,
yeah, I have to take a look at that.
You're
Yeah.
saying the planter beds are below grade
Yeah.
of the new concrete,
yes,
about 4 to 6 inches.
yeah, 3 to 4.
3 to 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know how they're, and the runoff there, off the canopy too, has to be taken into account. I don't know how that's gonna work out.
Okay, I'll take a look at it, but hopefully they, most of that can be saved, and then we could seed in a little bit more over it.
How much, you put a lot of plugs in there, right,
Oh,
to
yeah,
start?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That was all plugs, yeah.
Those all plugs. I don't mind so much the trampling, because the plants are down for the season, and so they're, they're basically very much alive underground, but if there's an issue, I'll take a look.
Yeah, they're pretty well,
I'll take a look. Okay. Anything else on the,
No.
okay. And we'll move on. Public outreach, Mount Prospect Garden Club presentation, high school and field trips.
We still have to get them the paragraph, and we have to send them a photo,
Okay.
and the talk is next week, Wednesday, so we should decide right today when we're going to take our group photo. John, you said you're gone all weekend?
I am, I should be back Sunday afternoon sometime.
We could just take it here.
Yeah, with this as a backdrop, with this thing as a backdrop.
That's true.
I mean, why don't we do that as a.
You can take that and then
have
as a
it
backup.
As a
we don't
backup.
get a
Mhm.
better photo.
Okay. And a paragraph we need, too.
Okay, so the bigger issue is to plug in Jill's revisions into the actual presentation. Get that to Seth so that he can start working with it.
ASAP.
And then at some point before Wednesday, we need to schedule a rehearsal on it.
Yeah.
Is this the same presentation?
Same
SLU 101.
presentation.
Mhm.
And are we, I forgot the setup, are we all involved in this?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Jill
We're all
can't be
involved.
there, so Seth is taking her place.
Her part. Mhm.
Okay.
Otherwise, everybody's.
Sure. I'm honored. Impossible shoes to fill.
High schools and field trips.
Okay.
You can update Hersey and Seth can update Wheeling.
Okay, so Hersey High School, actually, one of our volunteers, Linda Wasey, reached out to Hersey and their ecology club or their biology club, and they had a back and forth about volunteering, about becoming involved, and then it's sort of, they're not interested. And that's that.
Seth, want updates on Wheeling?
Sure, I've made preliminary contact with Wheeling Science Department. It seems like they're enthusiastic. The idea is to develop a program, hopefully for a long-term program, to engage the Wheeling High School students with the Prospect Heights Natural Resources Commission. I'm hoping to engage them in areas not only of physical labor in terms of helping us as volunteers, but also maybe science projects, educational projects, even art projects. So far, the feedback I've gotten is very positive. The next step is I'm supposed to send them a detailed email. I actually spoke with the secretary of the Dean of Science today, and she said that, they're waiting for me to send over a detailed email with more of our proposal.
Another, in these high schools, a few years ago, another route to get volunteers is through their service over self programs. I contacted Hershey's about, I don't know, it must have been 3 years ago or something. Again, there was not much of a response.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, but maybe things have changed, but I don't know, if you want students involved, maybe we can get them from the service end of it rather than the science end of it. That's all I have to say about that.
Field trips?
Regarding like the,
I don't know, it's, I don't know, does
I don't know
anybody
if we,
have anything to say about that? If not, let's move on.
yeah, I mean, we had field trips with the fourth graders,
Mhm.
and with the sixth graders recently, but I think we covered that in the last
we did.
agenda, so. No new field trips scheduled as of
Okay.
now.
The Nature Speaks program, we have a course coming up on the 29th is Joel Greenberg, and everybody needs to reach out. Ed, I need you to get a press release to the Herald. I'll send you all the info tonight when I get back.
Sure.
There'll be 3 new announcements, one a week coming out. I think right now there's like 15 people signed up, but that number should be, there's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be like the same sort of numbers that we had for Wilhelm. He's a really well-known author. He has a lot to say about everything, but the passenger pigeon alone is worth the price of entry. So then we have Bill Climate, that's all been signed and sealed and delivered. His page is up on the website. He's being promoted in the Journal along with Joel Greenberg. And then we have a commitment from Dan Thompson at DuPage County for the January 24th. The topic is still undecided, but he is committed. So that is our speakers
And then we have
for now.
the other speaker either in spring or May.
Yeah, and I've reached out to the other speaker from Seth, where is he affiliated with?
Lake County Forest Preserve.
Lake County Forest Preserve, to try to come in spring or fall. So that whole conversation is still ongoing.
Barry Lilly.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's about it. That's the update. So we just need to get butts in the seat for Joel Greenberg.
Ed, will you do that, the press release?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
I'm gonna send this. So if you haven't signed up, sign up, and then just try to send the first announcement will probably go out tomorrow morning.
There's still 49 seats available. so
Forward it.
that's-
Just
a lot.
send it out and tell people you gotta come. Maybe you can send one to Jerome.
I already told him.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. The display cases?
Display cases, thanks for everybody's help. It was really great. They're up at the library. And couple of them look a little homemade, but and a couple look professional, like John's looks very
Peter, I
professional.
wanted to modify our statement for e-news tomorrow, if that's okay to, is it already done? Yeah, it's already done. Okay.
What's,
Oh, just to tell people, go look at the displays
oh, at the library,
at
yes.
the library.
I think it looks really nice. I don't know if
We'll
everybody's
do it
been
for
there,
next week.
but
I'm gonna stop there tomorrow morning and fine tune.
yes.
Yeah, you might want
They're
to
still fine
move the
tuning
name tags around.
with this color.
Well, it does look nice, though.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah. And apparently, there's a lot of people interested, and even when Dana was setting up, there's many people that walked up to him and asked a lot of questions.
So we have 2 display cases, and it's on.
3.
We have 3.
3.
Prospect Heights Natural Resources Commission, and we do have some artifacts in there as well.
Mm-hmm. A lot of
Lots
pictures, even some seeds and books, and just a lot of information, too. All of volunteer photos, wildlife photos, and sort of all of the work that we've been doing for the last 4 years is showcased. Not completely, because we would have needed probably 20 display cases to fit everything, but a lot is in there. It's a really nice display.
Okay. The interpretive signage, I can give you an update on that. All the files have been approved. Everything has been handed off to the guys who make the signs. I should hear an ETA on those sometime tomorrow, maybe. And then I'll let everybody know via email when they're going to be ready. So it's all in the works. The Park District signed off on it and everything's fine, so.
Okay, next is Poplar Creek Prairie Steward Seed Collection Days. So we had planned one seed collection day to go over there, and they allowed us to collect as much seeds as we wanted. And then they allowed us to come the next weekend and do that too. So we had a Sunday and a Saturday. We had a pretty good turnout. I believe we had like 8 volunteers come from Prospect Heights, going all the way to Hoffman Estates to collect seeds at Poplar Creek. The second time, I think maybe we had around 6, Dana, something like this. So we got a lot of seed. It was a lot of fun, of course. It's always great to see them. And
This Saturday?
this Saturday, Poplar Creek is having they're having their seed processing day. So it will be the day, moving on to, of course, the next agenda item. Our seed processing day is on Sunday, November 18th, 2018. Theirs is the day before. It's usually the week before, but this time it's the day before. So I have both of those days off, and I plan on attending their seed processing day.
Wait, is it this Saturday or Saturday the 17th?
17th,
17th. It's
Poplar
two
Creek.
Saturdays
Thank
from
you.
now.
Okay.
right. Yes. So the 17th and then the 18th is ours.
And the timing on ours is 9
9
a.m.
to
to
12.
12 noon, and then we enjoy lunch.
Exactly.
Yes, and by the way, have you received any RSVPs on
One from
lunch?
Linda Wacy, a volunteer. That's all for right now.
Okay.
So we still have time for that, I guess, with the food assignments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be bringing food, both for morning and the afternoon.
And we'll bring some too. We'll
We'll coordinate.
mhm. So if anybody wants to come on Saturday, November 17th, we could carpool from my house if anybody's interested in attending. It's a lot of fun. They have like 50 people show up, and they're at a new center. They did it at Crabtree Nature Center for the last 26 years.
Really?
Yes. And
That's right, we did.
yeah. You remember stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
So they've outgrown their facilities because there's so many people that comes to the seed processing day, and there's so much seed to process that they can't fit into that location anymore. So they are going to be going to the headquarters, the Cook County Forest Preserve headquarters, Bussey Woods, Red Barn, and so they're going to have a lot more space. It'll be fun if anybody's interested. It's always nice to see how they do it and pick up a lot of ideas and
Do
just
they
have a
have
good
the
time.
Do they have the same hours, 9 to noon?
I want to say that their hours are 10 to 12:30, but I can email
Oh.
that to everybody. I think they start a little later, and they go later too.
Also, going back to our seed processing day, Jeremy is going to be working on constructing new seed processing stations for us tomorrow.
Great.
We'll have 4 more, so we'll have 8 of those
Yeah.
trays. We've been borrowing from from Poplar Creek in the past. So,
Speaking of Jeremy, what's the status with him? Because now we're nearing.
He has like 20 hours left, and so he's been working shortened weeks. So next week should be the end of him working, and he'll have 20 hours left.
And how are his job prospects going?
He's applied all over the place.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, he'll get employed.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else we want to
New
say about that?
business.
Okay, new business. So before we start the new business, I wanted to add an agenda item about the slough and about the construction that's been going on over there. Dana, maybe you want to.
Yeah, as you know, the Hillside Road was resurfaced there. That was part of the city plan. And when we first met with Mark, and I've met with the engineer out there, they were saying that the plan was to replace the road and then replace that 2-foot gravel section that was there. And so they stripped the road down, and when they did, they took the gravel out, that 2-foot shoulder out with the same tool. And then they paved the road, which effectively made it another 2 foot wider. And I thought, wow, well, that's cool. Maybe they're just going to leave it like that. And then today on the way home, I saw sawhorses or construction horses all the way down Hillside Road. And I went, whoa, wait a minute, and turned around and went to look. And she did the exact same thing on the way home from work. And we both got home within minutes of each other and were horrified that they had excavated another looks like about 30 inches, could be 24, the full length of hillside. So in addition to increasing the width by what used to be the old shoulder, they've now added another 2 feet. So we've lost a total of that much more space that's just going to translate into
More
immediate
runoff.
runoff,
Total runoff.
straight into the slough.
And eliminates the possibility of, you know, buffer systems and at least that whole stretch. And it's a large area if you consider it, about, you know, how much filtration and nutrient runoff you could prevent from going into the slough, just increase that dramatically. So it's sort of sad. It is what it is, but
Yeah.
just want to mention it so everybody knows it.
Yeah. didn't see that
Who's
one.
who's doing the project and who signs off on the project?
Peter, do you know the contractor?
But it's Public Works.
It's Public Works is overseeing the project, and Mark is, he's told me, I've got it written down somewhere, I just don't have it with me, and I don't remember who the contractor is.
Yeah, I don't mean so much the contractor, I guess I meant Public Works. So one of the things I wanted to mention, and this ties into the next thing of strategic planning, it seems like there's a number of things that happen in our city that relate to our mission that we're not consulted on. And I think part of our strategic planning should be that we are recognized as a body that has expertise and should be consulted. Obviously, we don't have the final say. I'm not saying we should have the final say. But we should be recognized as experts in a particular realm that should be consulted for our opinion in numerous things that happen within our city, whether it be from the city of Prospect Heights, Public Works, or Park District. We should be consulted, and again, not consulted to the point where we have the ultimate say, but that we have input. So, such as the dumping at Morova, such as this roadway. You know, somebody signed off on the roadway. I would assume the company that's doing the work provided plans for how wide the road was going to be and how wide the shoulder was going to be. And I assume somebody signed off on that. And if it's going into natural area property, that's when people in the city of that's when all players in Prospect Heights should recognize, oh, we have a expert panel in this city that whenever we're dealing with natural areas, we're supposed to contact them. So I think that should be part of the strategic plan. Forever after anything happens to natural areas in Prospect Heights, we should be consulted. Not as, like I said, not as the final say, but it should be a natural thing. You're messing with the natural areas, talk to the Natural Resource Commission to get their input.
That is part of what we laid out in the strategic plan to where it is today. The mechanism for that, I think, has to be mandated by city council, though. And I would say probably nothing is going to happen until the elections are over and you see an all-new roster of people. I don't know. Peter?
I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's such a shame that it happened. I mean, it's done, but you've just taken away so much land that's going to impact that wetland in just such a negative way, and it's just really, yeah, I wish we had known. I wish we had been able to talk to somebody about it.
I think we should still say something, though.
Yeah, I'll talk to Mark. And I have to say that the dialogue with Public Works has become really good. And Mark will routinely call and update, like for instance this morning, and this goes right into the prescribed burns. He was forwarded Julie requests for utilities, mapping for the West Prairie over at the Seeded Prairie. And he wanted to know if that was related to a burn we were conducting. Well, it turns out that it's part of the application process that ComEd is going through. They want to burn that again, but they're also planning on burning the
The remnant prairie.
remnant prairie again as well. they were trying to get all that lined up for this fall, but the permitting and stuff just didn't happen quick enough. So they're looking at definitely doing it in the spring, but they're also talking about the possibility of a winter burn, which I've never heard of, but,
It's just a window.
yeah, if you got a window, you do it, so. But the dialogue with Mark has been really good, and Mark's terrific to work with. I thought, I mean, I just, thought that that's the way they were gonna do it, instead of putting that gravel back in, but, well, it sure didn't happen that way.
You should drive down and see it. I'm sure it's not half of it. It looks like half of the land is gone.
But I think we should have not to, create animosity, but we should talk about, sort of analyze the incident that happened and do a investigation and an analysis and figure out what went wrong in communication and how do we prevent this from happening again. Now, again, not to place blame, but to let's investigate who signed off on this, what's the process for when you're, the crown jewel in Prospect Heights and natural areas is the slough.
That's right.
And now the slough has been adversely affected significantly. How did that happen? And again, we don't have to say how did it happen to blame somebody, but how did it happen? Let's analyze who signed off on that, and how do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
I
And,
agree.
we can talk about having good relations, but if the slough, if this happened, I mean, it's something broke, and we have to figure out why did it break and how do we fix it?
My thought, when they're gonna go and put gravel back in that area they just excavated, if they use the road grindings, they have so much oil in them, that's all gonna wash into the slough. And
I have-
if there's anything that we could do to, I don't know, ask them not to use road grindings, because
I mean, that's my number one call in the morning, is to call Mark and say, okay, A, what happened, and B, what are they gonna put back in there? I mean, this, again, as it's getting dark, we saw this tonight, so, I will certainly reach out to him first thing in the morning.
Is it our understanding that a shoulder is absolutely essential?
The shoulder was always part of the contract, but when Mark and I met out there, the understanding was that they were going to excavate the existing area and then put it back. It wasn't that they were going to excavate the area, pave it, and then add another
Right.
2 foot going in that other direction.
Do we think it's a possibility that we can get them to not put a shoulder on the slough side?
It's
No,
already, no, it's already,
no, it's already done.
everything's already excavated. It's a done deal. I think one thing we can do, and, and I always try to think of, okay, it happened, what can we do to somehow
Mitigate.
mitigate, right,
yeah.
salvage, mitigate, just what else can we do?
Compensate.
Right, all of those things. So I think it'll be really important to just vegetate the remaining shoulder as much as we can and really stabilize the shoreline, using all measures and even go up to the road, to the shoulder. We always had that 2 or 4 foot,
Well, some places, that's all that's left.
it's gone,
is-
right, it's not even,
I mean, the only thing short of an erosion blanket and a ton of seed,
Right.
that could just wash out real easy.
Are there materials that we can propose as an alternative that would be ecologically sound
what do you mean?
for the shoulder, instead of putting in the grindings that we can put in?
That's just not, it's not gonna happen. I mean,
It's
first of
already
all,
done. They're probably gonna be doing it
The
tomorrow.
budget, the project, everything has been set, it's been fulfilled, and whatever's gonna go back in there is gonna go back in there.
I mean,
Even to just, I mean, it would be a huge amount of money to plug it in with something new at this point, and God only knows how long it would take. It's supposed to snow on Friday, so.
I mean, the whole thing should have been like an impervious road,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
instead, it's like an asphalt road that's just been extended and made even wider.
Right.
So,
Okay, let's move on.
sorry, yeah, let's move on.
I'll let you know after I talk to Mark, I'll send out an email.
It's okay. Just do our best to work. Okay, PHNRC strategic planning. That's Seth and-
Okay, we met briefly and crafted some key points of the strategic plan. There has not been enough time to formalize that and get it out to everybody. As soon as I have the time, I will do that.
Okay.
Next is comprehensive equipment list and 2019 budget.
You have in front of you a 2017-18 budget. This was the budget that we received from the city. The following year, we whittled this down to $4,500 for the intern position and $900 for operational supplies.
Right. In that previous 2017 budget, it was because we had the grant that we applied for. That's why that extra 5,000 came from, because 5,000 was given by the park district and 5,000 from the city for the grant, which we don't have this year. But if we did want to, or suggest that the city or park district or together apply for a grant, the ComEd Green Regions grant in the springtime, that may need to be budgeted for as well. Right, Peter? If we were to ask council to, and if council approved to apply for another ComEd Green Regions grant, would that be part of this year's budget?
When would you, when do you apply for the grant?
It would be next year.
March 15th is the deadline.
March
March
15th?
March of next year?
Yeah.
That's this year's budget. So the budget isn't up until May 1st.
Okay, so that's right around the time then.
So, if you apply for it and got it in March, I mean, you can, as an advisory commission, you can ask for whatever.
Right.
So you can definitely, put that in your ask, $5,000. I would confirm that Park District is on board with that as well.
Right.
Because it's a two-pronged thing. I mean,
Right.
Park District can't do it by themselves, we can't do it by ourselves, so.
Right.
I would start those conversations with the Park District to make sure that they're on board, before you stick your neck out here as far as the city goes. So I'm
Okay.
sure you could use that $5,000 if you were to get that for an intern, or something that would deem more valuable.
Correct. Okay, thanks, Peter. So you, the purpose of handing you this budget is so they had a reference here to look at. We should start budget talks in January, but this gives you sort of a rough idea of what we've done in the past. Okay?
I don't see the drone on the,
Yeah.
The drone.
Yes.
Flew away.
Okay. Anything else to say about that?
Nope.
Okay. Next is fall prescribed burns. So burn season is quickly approaching. As far as the forecast, we're supposed to get a snow, and the temperature is supposed to drop to like 20s, which will really put things into motion. All the leaves are going to drop, fuel's going to be ready. So it's really right now all about precipitation and how fast those fuels can dry out, and then the conditions, if they're correct, with the wind speed and the humidity, relative humidity. As far as looking at the forecast, it looks like Sunday might be a chance for that snow to go away a little bit. Might be a chance for it to dry out. So I have a feeling that Cook County Forest Preserves and everybody else is going to try to burn next week. Wednesday looks like a really great opportunity to burn so far, if we can get that precipitation dried out.
the presentation.
We have a presentation on Wednesday, exactly. So, I don't know, does everybody have Wednesday off all day? Or you're just taking half, like Ed, are you taking only
I was just blocking out that time.
just that time?
I got the day.
You got the
I
day?
have a program that, later that day.
I'm off.
You have off on Wednesday?
Yeah.
And Seth, you have off on Wednesday? And I have off
I
on
could be.
Wednesday. You could be off on Wednesday. So, potentially, I mean, I know we have this presentation, but we could always do a little bit of burning in the morning, go do our presentation, and do a little bit of burning in the afternoon.
We'll be the smoky presenters.
I know it's sort of, but, I think we're gonna have to split up our burns into a couple of days anyway. We're not gonna be able to do it all in one day. So we might as well try to get in if everybody has off and if everybody's available, willing, and if the temperature is perfect, and, we can get a couple of our sites down that day. Everything's ready, all of our equipment has been checked, all the Indian bags are working, we have 2 extra bathing suits.
Have the grasses really dried out enough? I mean, some of them that I've seen, it seems like just a couple days ago, there was still some green. And are they gonna be dry enough for a good burn this early?
So it depends on the species. So like all of our warm season grasses, all of our prairie grasses are definitely dry already. What I think you see a lot of is like woodland grasses too. They remain in that sort of basal leaf all
What
winter
about like all
long.
these cattails? They seem like they're a little juicy yet.
Yeah, we're not going
Yeah.
to burn the cattails this year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not in the fall. We're not going to do
We'll
that.
do that in the spring.
There's still, you'll see over the next few days how that changes,
Okay.
especially with the drop in temperature. I mean, the turf grass is going to stay green a
I'm
little
not
bit.
worried about the, yeah, the
Yeah,
turf
that's our,
grass
there's
so
our
much
burn,
is-
that's sort of our break too.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, so I'll keep everybody updated. It's really too soon to tell, to make sure for
Right.
next Wednesday. But it's a possibility, if everybody's willing, then it's a good possibility next Wednesday,
All right, so Peter, maybe next Wednesday,
maybe.
a burn? Yeah, we'll let you know. So Peter will be responsible for, and I'll coordinate with him for sending out the reverse 911 in the affected areas. I will be sending out that email burn notification. All the burns and all the burn information is already up on the website. There's a link on the homepage that links you to the burn update info page. And so as we know more, we'll put in what we know when we know it, and people refer to that, so. And I think, Peter, do we still have the burn notice in this tomorrow's e-news? Yeah, okay. All right, the only other thing to add to that was, of course, the information about ComEd and that they want to burn all 3 sections of the prairies, and that's great.
I was surprised that they were going to, we were on a 5-year burn schedule for the seeded prairie, so
Right,
I don't
well,
know.
they like it, so.
Right.
You said
Okay.
all 3 sections of the comment prairie?
Yeah, the remnant and the 2 seeded portions.
Got it.
Okay, East and West Prairie.
So as far as the burn, there's a chance I would be able to do it in the morning and then do the speech, but definitely not.
Okay.
for me.
And there'll be another opportunity. It could be the following week.
I mean, if
2
nothing
weeks
else,
from
we can
now.
knock out all the small burns like John's,
Right.
Lawrence, and St. Al's, and
St. Al's, we have to be here, they
Nine.
asked us, St. Al's asked us to do it after the kids are out of school or on a weekend.
okay,
So that would be in the afternoon.
okay.
ComEd does the Sedge Meadow, I mean, they own the Sedge Meadow, right? Are they
Yes.
gonna burn that?
No. It's not worthy enough yet. But-
Okay, that's it.
Any questions about that? Any more? No. Okay. City civic meetings and PHNRC representation reporting.
Jill, do you have any updates on that?
Do you want me to mention about McDonald Creek? Is that what you mean?
No, well, it's just referring to those meetings, I guess. I was wondering if we had an update on who's up next and who's going and all that stuff.
Oh,
I did not.
well, I attended the city council meeting on the 22nd.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, I mean, those meetings are long. I could review 3 hours of it if you want, but,
Slow.
that says sure. Anyway, there wasn't really much as far as direct concerning with the Natural Resources Commission, issues like that. There are lots of talk about the airport and staggered elections for aldermen and home rule discussions, and a lot of this stuff has gone by the wayside since the meeting. But, yeah, really, just to summarize, there's nothing really pertaining to
Pertaining us.
our direct interests.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else about that?
No.
Okay. Then the McDonald Creek Commission meeting.
The McDonald Creek Commission meeting of October 23rd was canceled, so I do not have anything to report. Their next meeting is Tuesday, November 27th, 6 PM.
Okay. Wild Things Talks.
There has not been enough time to do anything on that. We don't even
Wanna
have to
just-
get serious about it until January.
You want to just tell everybody maybe in the audience what it is?
Oh, Wild Things is, Wild Things is a conference, it's a regional conference that draws from all over, everywhere, the Midwest, all parts of the U.S. It has always been held at the University of Chicago, and it's one day, What day is it, February?
February 23rd.
23rd.
23rd. And
It's a biannual event.
what it is it's like eight sessions throughout the day. There's a keynote speaker, and then there's 8 sessions, and then each of those 8 sessions have 4 or 5 tracks that you can go participate in. Last year, we spoke for the first time about the NRC. This year, they reached out to us and asked us for a presentation. And so we're going to be doing that. And then they also asked Agnes to participate in a panel discussion on seed propagation. So we'll be well represented this year.
And this is certainly kind of the who's who of the
Right.
natural resource
Yeah.
community.
This one is, they've moved the event because it's just gotten so big, they moved it to Stevens Center in Rosemont.
Right, and all of conservation agencies are represented, and forest preserves, a lot of volunteers, a lot of topics on restoration, conservation.
So if you're interested in all this stuff, it's a really terrific thing to,
It's a lot of
it's a day of incredible learning opportunity.
There's so many things to pick from that you can, I mean, everybody has something that they could be interested in, even for gardeners, there's so much.
It's February
Insects,
23rd?
birds, just so many different topics.
Yeah, they usually have raptors, they have all kinds of merchandise for sale, there's lots of vendors, it's just food. it's
Presentations from
Very
students.
festive. Okay,
Okay,
meeting schedule?
meeting schedule.
Do you know what? I did not send that to the commissioners with the minutes and the agenda. But it's essentially the second Tuesday evening, months January through November, and we typically do not hold one in December.
Thursdays,
Thursdays, is that what I said, or did I say Tuesdays?
yeah, okay.
Okay,
Do you want me to send it to you, and then we can approve via email, or,
yeah, that's fine.
okay,
Well, I mean, if that's the schedule, why, we can just approve it now,
you can? Okay.
right? I mean, it's the same Thursday of each month.
Yes.
Mhm,
That
sure.
sounds good.
Okay,
with me.
make the motion.
I motion that we just approve it
I
here
second.
now.
All in favor?
And
Aye.
I'll send it to Peter.
Okay. All right, great. Meeting schedule. Visitors' comments?
Visitors' comments. Is there anything to say?
No. Okay. All right, anything else? Anything else?
Our next meeting is not till January 10th of 2019.
Oh, okay.
I make the motion, we adjourn then.
Second?
All in favor?
Hold on a minute. Sorry, no, kidding.
Okay.
Okay,
All
we
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.